Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. So now guys, before we get into the video, a bit of a psychology lesson, a bit of a lesson in our psychoanalysis, just very brief. There's a Jewish American psychoanalyst called Sigmund Freud. So now this guy Freud is the one that really one of the first people to codify and explain and expand on some of the reasons why we do a lot of the things that we do. So now what now we're about to engage with on this video, is what you would describe as a Freudian sleep. A Freudian sleep. So Freudian as in the name of the man, because it's named after him, and then sleep as in slip of tongue, S-L-I-P. So a Freudian sleep is what we're describing this as. And really just quickly, a Freudian sleep is when you say what you were thinking. So just quickly, a Freudian sleep is when you say what you are thinking rather than what you intended to say, because often you are thinking one thing, but then you edit that thought and then you present it to your audience in the way that they can digest it. Whoever you're speaking to, then you present your thoughts to them in a way that you feel they can digest it or is easily digestible for them. So this is now a Freudian sleep. As guys, I bring you this Abacha loot, why I referred to recovered looted funds as assets. So this is now Malami, the Attorney General of the Nigerian state, that is now having to make this public correction about utterances that he'd made previously. So again, the headline, Abacha loot, why I referred to recovered looted funds as assets. So now Malami trying to justify himself. So now let's see how he's going about it. The Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, on Wednesday defended his labeling of the returned $311 million looted by a former Nigerian military leader, Sani Abacha, as Abacha assets. So this is what the guy said. So this is me just pausing for a moment. So this is what the guy said that caused all of the controversy. So in a previous statement, he has described the monies that was stolen by Abacha and ferreted away to foreign accounts that is now being recovered by the Nigerian people. This guy, the Attorney General no less of the Federation, so you have to bear in mind the office that he occupies, because that then adds more weight to this thing now that is contending with and this thing in contention. So the Attorney General of the country, Abubakar Malami, is describing these looted funds as Abacha's asset. So if in his thought, and that was why I started off with the Freudian preamble, just so you know that this is a thought that he has at the back of his mind, and this is how he sees it, which is of course different from the way that he would usually present it. But then of course his original thought slipped out, as opposed to how he should have or would have and has always presented it. So he sees it as Abacha's assets, and thus ensues a set to with the Nigerian people. Mr. Malami had in a tweet on Monday announcing the repatriation of the $311 million from the United States of America and Bailiwick of Jersey, referred to the funds as Abacha's assets. His tweet angered some Twitter users who contended that the description of the recovered funds as Abacha assets could suggest that the funds may be returned to the former dictator's family. This led to criticism on Twitter for what commentators, including the publisher of Sahara Reporters, Omoyele Sowore, described as the minister's improper labeling of the loot by the then maximum ruler. But in a statement by his special assistant on media and publicity, Umar Gwandu, on Wednesday, the AGF, so that's the Attorney General of the Federation, the AGF said he considered referring to the funds as Abacha's assets because it had been repatriated to Nigeria and qualified as federal government assets. Mr. Malami urged Nigerians to focus more on how the recovered funds will be used for public good, whilst describing the criticism of his reference to the funds as Abacha assets as a needless media hype. He noted that the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation maintains that the choice of words was deliberate. It is to be noted that by use of antecedents, the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abacha Malami SAN, has been consistently describing the recovered funds as Abacha loot at several fora during the process of recovery of the looted funds, particularly before the eventual repatriation of the funds. The point needs to be made that when the seal of legitimacy was appended to the funds by way of repatriation, it became an asset in favor of the federal government as a beneficial owner of same. The Attorney General of the Federation further stated that beyond the issues of verbal dexterity and vocal acrobatics, Nigerians should focus more on effective utilization of the recovered looted funds in accordance with the contents of the signed tripartite agreement in the interest of the Nigerian public. It may interest the general public to note that there is a unit called Asset Recovery and Management Unit at the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice. The use of the word assets in relation to the post-recovery of looted assets is to qualify same as federal government assets. It is palpable that news about successful return of the looted assets has brought nightmare to naysayers and pessimists who wanted to frustrate the repatriation process through campaigns of calumny, hence resorting to rhetorics instead of burying their heads in shame, the statement added. The Attorney General of the Federation had pledged that the money would be expended on identified infrastructural projects such as agreed in the tripartite contract between the governments of Nigeria, the United States, Belwick of Jersey, before the repatriation of the funds. So now guys, the real takeaway from this, the real point that I wanted to highlight, and I think you've already picked it up anyway in the narrative, in the body of the story, the real point really is the mindset of these people, because this guy has unwittingly introduced us into the mindset of these people. So in his own mind, those stolen funds are actually Abacha's assets. So those stolen funds in his own mind belong to Abacha, and now he's now trying to, in his own word, be dexterous with language and trying to use obfuscation, to use boju boju for us, abracadabra, Professor Pella, to use William Shakespeare, to try and dribble and, try and realign himself again. But then of course, the Nigerian people were quite right to say, hang on a minute, because you have to understand that the Nigerian masses, especially the high end of it, they are supremely educated and highly intelligent, and they watch these things like a hawk. So they are saying, hang on a minute, if you, as the Attorney General of the Federation, is describing this thing, this money recovered, these properties recovered as Abacha's assets, then you are effectively, in your own words, that is not in his own words, in his rebuttal, but that's what I'm referencing. So is effectively, in his own words, in his rebuttal, legitimizing the monies as belonging to Abacha, because if it is Abacha's asset, then surely Abacha then should have first claim to it. But it was Nigeria's asset, it remains Nigeria's asset, it was stolen by a maximum military ruler, a coup plotter, and it has since been recovered by the Nigerian state. So there was no time in space that money was never Nigerian money. There was no time in space that that money was never. Imagine, for instance, a thief steals your car. The car is then in the thief's possession, and the police then recovers your car from the thief and then gives it back to you. So at what point in that chain of sequence of events was that car never yours? When the car was originally in your possession, it was your car. When the car was stolen by the thief, it is still your car, but in the possession of the thief. It did not stop being your car when it was in the possession of the thief. It is still your car, but it's been stolen from you. It still remains your property. And when the police then recovers that car and hands it back to you, it continues to be your car. So it was never not your car at any point in time. So that money that was recovered was never not Nigeria's money at any point in time. It was never Abacha's assets at any point in time, because it was stolen money. It did not lawfully or rightfully ever belong to Abacha at any point in time. And this is the point that they are trying to make to this guy. But then, of course, it's a Malami. What does he? He doesn't really know anything. You remember how Femi Falana is always constantly correcting this guy on a point of law all the time, anytime that this guy takes a position which is from the damn Dawit textbooks, according to Yamoto legal structure, or whatever it is that they're doing, according to the legal structure of Buhari Russification, or whatever it is that goes on in their own quarters. The constitution, thankfully, the constitution is the worst. The Nigerian constitution is the worst constitution of any country, because it just vests enormous powers in the hand of one single person. And if that person is the wrong person, as we are seeing now in this current climate that we're living through, if that person is the wrong person, then we'll end up in the situation that we find ourselves in. But no matter how bad that constitution is, it is still the constitution, and it's still written down, and everybody is still able to read and understand what it contains. So you cannot have this guy reinterpreting the Nigerian constitution to ally it with serving Buhari, because Buhari is there to serve to the constitution and not the constitution to serve to Buhari. So this is yet again that same mindset, describing Nigeria's money as Abacha's asset. How did Nigeria's money become Abacha's asset? It is only in the mind of Abubakar Malami. But if it is your thought as well that this is indeed Abacha's assets, then come share your logic with me in the comment section. But before you do that, click on the red subscribe button so it turns gray. Bell button notifies you every time I drop a new video. Then come tell me now what you're making of this now very weird and strange and eerie times that we're living through within the Nigerian space in the comment section. So I'll leave you here. Carry this conversation on with you in the comment section. But here I say peace.